Hello, my name is John Hawley, and I am principal at the Center for Math and Science in Rock Island, Illinois.
I'm Ian Scott, principal at Thomas Jefferson in Milan, Illinois, and we are your MyRock podcast hosts.
MyRock celebrates what makes RIMSD 41 thrive. Each episode shares inspiring stories and insights from behind the scenes, sharing the heart of our schools.
The podcast also supports our 2030 strategic plan by fostering connections, building relationships, and strengthening communication within our district and our community.
Thank you to all the listeners who've joined us tonight. And remember to share, like, and subscribe where you get your podcasts.
If you're feeling generous, give us 5 stars, tell a friend, give us a listen.
Welcome to the MyRock podcast. My name is John Hawley, and I am principal at the Center for Math and Science. And with me tonight is our co-host,
J.D. Wilson. I am the principal at Ridgewood Elementary School. Go Road Runners.
Go Tornadoes. I guess I better say that too. Well, we are very excited about our guest tonight. We have Ramona Dixon with us. And Ramona, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how long you've been in Rock Island.
Yeah, my name is Ramona Dixon. I am currently serving as the Director of Grants, Accountability, and Assessments for the district. I have been in this role for about 13 years now. Under that, I do a lot with all of our federal grants. I work closely with our building principals on allocating them the funds that they are warranted by our federal grant. To use in their building to increase student achievement. I also have been responsible for any other federal grants that we've gotten, and those have been the school improvement grants, as well as those ARP grants that we got during COVID. Another component of my role is that I oversee state assessments. Don't you guys just love those? Those state assessment exams, I make sure that we are in compliance with the state, as well as just having protocols and processes for our principals and our staff to adhere to.
And I think of all the people who are working hard in our district, that people who don't work downtown don't understand how hard somebody works. It's Ramona Dixon. You are such a tremendous asset to our district, doing most of what you do behind the scenes, and as you say, helping principals, helping buildings, helping families, all the things that you do. I bet the average person here in the district doesn't even realize all that you're doing. So thank you for that. Let's take people back to, how did you get here?
Sure. As a kid growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher. Never thought seconds about being anything other than a teacher. My great-grandmother was the teacher of a one-room high school in my very small hometown. And so I never got to meet her. I actually, the going joke in the family is that year that she passed away, all of my mom and her siblings got pregnant. So we came along because, the hammer was gone. But people always told me that as I was coming up that I reminded them of her. So I do have a second cousin who is an educator in Horry County Schools. She kind of worked her way through the system. She started out as a substitute, a paraprofessional, you name it, she did it. By the time I got to spend summers in Myrtle Beach, she was a math teacher. And so we all enjoyed, I think I'm the only one of the cousins that really enjoyed going to her house because she had math camp every summer. And she just became my mentor. I knew I wanted to go into education. I would spend lots of time with her outside of what the other cousins spent. And then when I went to the University of South Carolina, I ended up, for a semester, I majored in nursing because I wanted to change my major to make more money. All the time I knew that I wanted to be in education, but for some reason I changed my major as I went into college to nursing for a semester, and then I was like, oh no, I can't do this, and I went back into education. Graduated from the University of South Carolina and went to Coastal Carolina right there in Myrtle Beach, and I was going to do grad school there. all of my peers told me, hey, we think that you should test it out before you get your master's in it. And so my dad was coming home from Afghanistan. We were planning a family get together at Fort Bragg. And so I saw like a couple of jobs posted in North Carolina. So I called the principal up and I had my thumb drive, as they had trained us in college, with my resume on it, because thumb drives were very new then in 2004, and everyone, told us, take your thumb drive with your resume and be ready, to speak to it. So I called the principal up and I said, hey, I'm going to be in town just for the weekend, and I was looking at possibly interviewing for this job that you have open in January. And so the principal, I went there, interviewed, and he was like, this is your classroom. I said, hold up, I got to talk to my daddy about this. And so from there, it was, I took that teaching position. I quit graduate school. My dad came and moved me. We got a U-Haul and we moved me from Myrtle Beach to Rayford, North Carolina, where I took my first teaching position. The principal at that time, he was getting ready to go to a larger school district in North Carolina, which was about 15 minutes away, closer to the base where he had grown up. And he said, hey, I'm taking an English teacher with me. And he came to my classroom and he said, and that English teacher is you.
Oh, wow.
So I left that school after that semester and went to a larger school district for 2 years because I married my husband, who was in the military there. And within that 2-year time frame, the military gave us orders to go to Alaska.
So what level were you teaching?
I taught high school.
High school?
9-12 was my certification in North Carolina.
What grade?
I taught 9th grade. We had an academy setting at both schools that I taught. And so I was the 9th grade academy teacher, one of the 9th grade academy teachers at both of the settings that we went into.
And how long did you do that for?
I did that for 2.5 years before we were given the orders in 2010 to go to Alaska. My years may be off, but needless to say, we were there for 2 years and then we went to Alaska.
What happened in Alaska? Did you stay with education?
No, that's a good question. In Alaska, certifications vary from state to state, so I did get that opportunity to get my certification. I had a caveat that when you get there, you have to take Alaskan state studies. I made a command decision because I was already in a master's program that I wasn't going to take any more classes in education right then because my husband was going to be deploying for 18 months, and I just didn't feel like that was going to be where I needed to pour my energy because I knew we were only going to be there for a temporary time frame. So we agreed as a family that I would just be a stay-at-home mom for the next 3 years. My daughter was 1 year old when we got to Alaska, so what we ended up doing is my husband deployed, and we agreed that I would just be a stay-at-home mom. So I volunteered, and when I volunteered, they asked me, did I want to work? They had a job.
Of course.
So I said, hey, let me see the job description. We had agreed that it wasn't going to be any work, but I wouldn't mind just taking a look at the job description. And it was this job called School Liaison Officer, and I'm like, okay. I read the description. I said, this really seems like me. It was the liaison between the superintendent of schools for Anchorage, Alaska, and the commander of the base. I'm like, this is me.
Oh, wow.
And we couldn't have contact with our spouses just yet. So sometimes it was like a 6-8 week interval. From the time they left us, they would stop in Kuwait or different places. And so I wasn't going to be able to be in touch with my husband. So I took the job.
Make it move.
So we have family readiness groups and things, and I was one of the point people for it. He said, through some of the other spouses, I heard you took a job. I said, yeah, I did, and we talked about it. It was really, really a good move. So I worked for the Army, the Department of Army there, Child Youth School Services. So I didn't feel like I was missing a beat from just being still connected to that thing that I'm so passionate about, and that's children, our youth. And so I was able to do that there. I worked closely with our youth services director. I worked closely with all of the counselors that had schools that military students attended. Worked very closely with some of the other like departments that might not have saw what we did behind the scenes to make sure our military families were okay. And then when we left there, we went to Virginia, and I continued with that organization because I mean it was just basically I was able to transition into a job at the next base without really that applying and everything like that. So when we were stationed at Fort Myer, Arlington National Cemetery area, I acted as an assistant director for a large child youth facility. And so a lot of our clientele came from like the Pentagon. They were stationed there, or the bases around. So it was several military bases around there. And so we serviced their students, and I was the assistant director for that. And then transitioned out of that job one more time to do Army career counseling. So as soldiers were transitioning out, I oversaw and managed that Arlington National Cemetery Transition Center. So helped a lot of soldiers get jobs, negotiate salaries, just write resumes, do interviewing, and all of those great things as you're transitioning out into a world after doing 20, or some people did 20 plus, some people did 3, but it was still in the arena of teaching, teaching adults. So.
Absolutely.
So did you ask your husband, did you talk to him before you took all those jobs, or did you just, hey, I did it once on my own?
Mm-hmm. Well, most of the time, that time when we were stationed in Virginia, he was actually in South Korea. So a lot of those duty stations, when you ask him about the military experience, he'll tell you, ask my wife, she did it by herself. Because 18 months of being deployed in one location, Alaska, it was really the girls and I. We had a daughter that was born while he was deployed. So you really do kind of start to navigate your situation, which I think is why it was so easy for me to acclimate here. It kind of reminds me of home, but also, being a military spouse, you learn to navigate what's in your locus of control.
So it sounded like you found your niche once you made that switch and made the decision to take that job. And so it sounds almost similar to a little bit of a hodgepodge of what you do today. Would you say that once you found that, you didn't look back?
Yeah, I would say yes. Yes, and it all depended on where we were going to be. So once my husband got orders from the military saying that you're going to be moving from Virginia, we knew, we just had a conversation. Our girls were at that age where it mattered. And so usually they will give you like 2 or 3 choices. Like you can go here, here, or here. Well, each time that they've given my husband that choice, Rock Island kept coming up, Rock Island Arsenal. So I said, let me research this Rock Island Arsenal, because it just keeps coming up. And everything that I read about the area, it said it was a family-friendly place to raise kids. And so for us, that's what we were looking for. Being in Virginia, it's nice. I-95 led back home, so we could get on the highway and go home, which is South Carolina, in 4 to 6 hours. We would be home, North Carolina, South Carolina. And that was convenient, but what we needed at that point for our family was a place that we could all be settled. What my husband learned about, coming here to the Rock Island Arsenal was that it was a possibility that he wouldn't have to deploy again, because that was a big thing. Our youngest daughter had a lot of, the impact on your children is different. The oldest, she didn't have a whole lot of like anxiety or, trouble with adjusting to my husband not being there. Whereas my youngest, she did. She started school here. My oldest started school in Virginia, and my youngest, she started here. She was in daycare on the Arsenal until she started here, and just seeing the impact that his absence had on her, like when students were donuts for dads, the oldest, she would just be like, okay, my dad's not here, mom, mom, can you come for donuts? Youngest, it was more of, why isn't my dad here? The questioning. And so that started to impact our family. Like my daughter, the deployment was tough on her. So my husband made a decision, which we never thought that it would be the decision to get out, because it was a strain on him mentally, and it was a strain on our family mentally. So people look at, military families, and you just see a lot of people see the glitz and glam, because for us, we have generations of military members, males that was their way out, and that was what in my hometown, if you didn't go to college, you went to the military, and it gave you a lot of structure in the systems, and it was, it gave you a good way of living, gave you that opportunity to travel and see life. But what people don't talk about is the other side of it. It's a lot to deal with on a family, and especially that soldier member themselves.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Shout out to military spouses. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough on a family. All that time away, and that's tough. So you come to Rock Island, and how long are you in Rock Island before you get a job with a district? And is it the same type of job you have now, or what was that like?
So we come to Rock Island, and my family, we like to volunteer. So we got attached to a church, and the church was like, hey, we're going to Rock Island Academy to volunteer. So we were like, we're going to Rock Island Academy to volunteer too. And so my husband, he's from Detroit, Michigan. So he was, this is what he did growing up. I would say he's from Detroit. I'm from South Carolina. My oldest was born in North Carolina, and my youngest was born in Alaska. So just the variety of different experiences that we come with, come from, like our kids kind of like gravitated towards our upbringings, the different ones, to kind of develop who, they are and what we've cultivated for, the norm for them. So volunteerism was something that both of us from our upbringings we were passionate about. And so we came here. My husband is a little bit more passionate about it, because he was just like, let's volunteer. I'm like, we don't even know these people yet. And so he was like, let's volunteer. And then so we went out and we volunteered. And I remember meeting Virginia Jarrett there. She was she's a key piece of glue that held the community component together for the Rock Island Mountain School District. And she was the only person in that position at the time. And so I meet her. I just introduced myself to her. We're just talking like we know everyone there. We just fell in, and it just felt like home. All the administrators, district administrators, were required to be there. All the building administrators they're with their red and gold on. I'm like, this is what I want to be a part of. Like, this is that culture. And I said that, and then Virginia had introduced me to the director of HR, which was Jim at the time. And he couldn't pronounce my name for nothing, but he called me that, like, he gave me his card, and I exchanged information with him. And he called me and he said, did you apply for that position? And I had. And I just got called in for an interview, and it was there. I had, the thing is, I had an interview with Davenport during that same time, and I ended up telling the individual, like, do I have to get back with you in a certain time frame? Because I was just very transparent. They called me at Rock Island, and I really would like that job. So I said, I want to make a decision today. And they were like, okay, you have time. But yeah, this was the first job that I worked at here, and 13 years ago. And
Rock Island was very lucky.
Man.
Very lucky.
Great pickup.
Yeah.
So I started in the capacity of the school improvement grant at the high school. We ended up then writing the school improvement grants for Rock Island Academy and Francis Willard. So that during the time frame, I did let the district know I was a military spouse, and we were going to be moving within 3 years. Never did I think that my husband would retire here, get out of the Army, and that we'd stay. So 13 years later, in 2017, my predecessor was sitting in this position. I was getting resumes ready and getting reference letters from my colleagues and my supervisors, and then it was shared with me that position was going to be vacant. And I was asked, had I ever considered staying here in the area? I said, I really didn't think about it. I was, planning to go back on the East Coast near some water. but like, let
We
me
got the
pray about
Mississippi.
it.
Here's water here.
Yes,
Come on.
Yes. Yeah. But I responded, let me pray about it, talk to my family, and we felt that our girls had been really acclimated to this area. This has been the only area that they really have known as they've grown up in school, and we thought it would be a great thing for them to be able to be stationary. We never thought of the idea as a military family of being stationary in one place, but we definitely love the idea of having our girls just grow up in one place like what we did and not have to, reconsider with that social emotional piece. We know our girls will be fine academically wherever they went, but that social piece was something to consider, and we prayed about it and we stayed here.
So even though you don't work directly with students, a lot of what you do has a very big impact on students. Could you talk to us about the impact that your work has on students?
Absolutely. There are a couple of components of my work that directly impact students. We have the AVID program that I have been lucky to be able to see from its inception at the high school under the school improvement grant till now. So I do get to go into classrooms and see that into play and interact and engage with families. So that's super gratifying to be able to work with our leaders, to do a lot of the behind the scenes work, but then to be able to go into those classrooms and have conversations with those students about preparing for college and career readiness, knowing that you can and will, and we'll help you with that choice. So that piece is definitely gratifying. A lot of our family and community engagement efforts have sought out conversations with students and their families. So being able to work in that realm, but then the behind the scenes component of working directly with our principals. A lot of the leaders give me those opportunities to see this work in play. So I'll go in buildings and do walkthroughs or have conversations with teachers. A lot of the teachers know who I am and what I do, so they reach out with their principals' permission. So being able to see a lot of what we're doing behind the scenes in different ways, I think it's super gratifying. But I think it's a different way of looking at the looking through the educational lens. I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yes, and you're making a huge impact with families too. So one of the things that we haven't talked a lot about is your involvement with FACE. You and Lance have done some work with intercessions and clubs and things like that. So your connection isn't just to the principals and flows through the principals. Your impact is flowing through teachers and families. Talk about those aspects of your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a part of, and I shared when I first came to the district in this position, we had one person that was responsible for family and community engagement. I did some research and we put together a 5-year model for that family and community engagement. The work, we kind of used our work with the school improvement grant, and one of the best practices that we saw was the family and community engagement team. We all know in education that it takes a village, it takes a team. And so one person cannot move a lot of these efforts where we need to have them go. So the family engagement team approach kind of empowered a teacher in that building to take the lead for that building. I firmly believe that our paraprofessionals, our teachers, and our leaders are firsthand. They're boots on the ground. So the approach of there being a family engagement department at the district level, it's far-fetched from where we need it to be with our goals, because again, the teachers, the paras, the principals are boots on the ground. So we wanted to leverage those individuals that are already in the building, that already have relationships with the families that they're servicing, but we have a framework. We provide a framework for them to operate in. And so we have now, every building has a family engagement team. Those individuals meet with me monthly. We have a PLC around that, a professional learning community, as we know, and that's that opportunity for us to plan how we do what we do together. So utilizing those research best practices around family and community engagement and bringing that to that teacher group, that support staff group is what I'm doing. And really, they're bringing the ideas and sharing with their counterparts, their peers and colleagues across the district what we're doing and what's working. And so if we're doing this in our building and it's working, it could work for you with a tweak or two. So just being able to share across like that vertical and horizontal alignment, but making sure that there's equity in the resources that we've provided them as a district, and those expectations as well.
And speaking of families, what are some things that I know we've had the Ready to Rock at the beginning of the year, just some of those events that draw families in. You know, sometimes, you know, the higher you go with levels, the harder it is to keep families engaged. What are some of those things that FACE at a district level is working on to make sure we're keeping families engaged from the beginning to the end of the educational process?
Yeah, good question. So what we've created is a model where we have those staple events. We know those events work, right? They're our annual ones. We don't have to do a whole lot it is a whole lot behind the scenes in it's event planning, but we have the model. We have the blueprint. And what I've worked over the past couple of years of doing is having my team memorialize those things so that if you come behind me, John, and Ramona's no longer there, you take the position, there's a blueprint. And I took this away from my work as being with the military, because you know there's going to be a lot of change there. So what we used to do is continuity. We used to do continuity binders for the position that I left. Every position that I left a continuity binder. My idea behind that is I want the person coming in after me to scale it up, right? They shouldn't have to start from scratch, from ground zero. So I'm leaving you what I have. Take what you need. The points of contact, all this, we do a lot of family and community engagement. So like I have my Rolodex, like a real Rolodex. But we have those points of contacts and those documents that we've created. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. So you have your staple events like the Ready to Rock the school year. All we're doing now is enhancing it, making it bigger and better, being culturally relevant, keeping an ear out in the community to see what needs are there, to see any new nonprofits or organizations that are around, and we're adding them to the fold, right? We're not doing anything majorly different because the data shows us that event is working in the way that it is. It gets a little hot sometimes out there, but you know, like we have our audience, and the audience expect that event is going to happen around that same time every year. So we're trying to build that where we have something every quarter. In the winter, the February timeframe, we do that winter bash. So we're working on what that spring event looks like, and eventually it'll be fall, winter.
Okay. So right. Enhancing those touches. Okay.
In addition to that, the academic components of it, we hear our families giving us lots of feedback. They want to know how they can help their kids academically. It doesn't take you having to be there. A parent or a family member or a grandma shouldn't have to go to the event just to get the information. So we're getting better about doing mailers, mailing people the content. Like my team knows that like when we have these events, you never know who you're going to have to attend. I went to a Thurgood Marshall event the other night. We were talking about that as a part of the planning. You don't know. And I don't want our teams to feel out of fear of people not showing up. You don't know unless you do it. So do it. And what we'll do is we'll recalibrate. I like to do after action. After every event that we have an after action review. It's not to point fingers or say you didn't do this right or we have to do something. We have to throw this event out. It's to say, okay, how can we market different and better? Did we target this audience? Did we send how many weeks in advance did we send the flyer out? So maybe we can do it because sometimes you can do it too early. So we are looking at research best practices around all of those things when we look at attendance and things like that. But what we're doing is listening to our teachers. We're listening to our families, and what they're saying is they want more help in helping students from an instructional round. So monthly, we're trying to have events that allow us to do that. And sometimes there will be partnerships with other organizations out in the community because they have the same clientele that we have. Our parents go into their businesses, their places of businesses, and our parents receive their services. So it's more about trying to leverage those partnerships. And anytime we can, we're an educational institution. So anytime we can put education at the forefront of whatever, we're partnering with someone to do, that's what we're, trying to enhance out in our buildings as well through our family engagement teams.
Okay.
Well, Ramona, we are at the end of our time, but I did want to share that last week we had our monthly meeting with our parents, and there were two parents there who said, we're not sure who to tell this to, but we want the people to know that we went to that Winter Rash. And it was fantastic. It was organized very well. We learned a lot. There were so many great resources. And so I know there are two parents at least from RICMS that appreciate all the work you're doing.
Your impact is felt.
Yes. And I know our teachers talk about, so many teachers in the district have great ideas, but they're not sure where to start, or they're not sure where to get the resources, and we're not always. We just thank you that you're just a phone call away, and you take away all the barriers so that we can be successful with our family events. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for coming and joining us today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thanks.
Wish you the best. Well, thank you all very much for joining in. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and share.